Tell us a little bit about your work.
The way I see it, it's more a generalist role, where you're asked to wear different hats at different times. If there is a specific problem that's going to be somewhere, you would have to solve it. So it's mostly around business strategy, product strategy, and so on. So in my current role, which I'm around 5 months old, I handle product strategy for a B2B product, and I am also responsible for the Asia Pacific market. So that's just a rough.
Thanks, Andrew. The initial bit of the description sounded like a prophet in the Old Testament times. Whenever there was a problem somewhere, God would send a prophet to speak to the people to fix it. And how does your work, how do you see your work connecting with God's original creation plan for humanity?
Okay. So if I want to go back to, let's say, Genesis, where God created the world, and when He presented the world to Adam and Eve, like He did not present a complete world, right? He presented a world which had all the ingredients. He presented a world with so many parts, but then this was a world that required work, right? So it needed to be plowed. I mean, God could have just kept like paddy out there in a room, but like he basically made sure that it needed work, and in that way I think he gave us this responsibility and this ownership over a lot of things in this world. So I think that's how I see work. Like I see work as something that God has put us in responsibility. It could be in different forms, it could be different work, but it is all something that God has made for us.
Thanks, Andrew. That is a beautiful insight. That really helped me see things afresh. That God left things for us to do. He could have created paddy, but He called Adam to work the ground and take care of it. That is beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. How does your work call you to see your own brokenness sometimes, and the brokenness of the world around you?
Okay. So I think when I was thinking about it, I had two things that I can like bring it out top of my mind on. And the first one is, I think I think I'm very ambitious in a lot of ways, and I really want to outwork everyone around me, and I want to make sure that I contribute more than like everyone out there who are my peers. So in a lot of ways, I think that drives me, and I make sure, and what it leads to is it makes me really selfish in a lot of ways. I do not spend time enough, let's say, with my family, with, let's say, my friends, or even like at times I do not take time for myself, like weekends, weekdays, evenings. I tend to become like just so obsessed, so to say, with like what I'm doing, and I really don't get time for me. Yeah. And the second part is, I think there are times where I'm so concerned about what people perceive about my work, which it sort of comes from the first part. But that kind of puts it kind of makes me when I think back, I see that I'm putting my trust on people and their perceptions and what they can do for me, and not on what God can do for me, if because He is the one in control.
Thanks, Andrew. Again, it's kind of making me reflect as well. Thank you. Very helpful. And the brokenness is real, but so also is the hope, as we've been reflecting. So, how is the gospel making you a better worker? It's a present, continuous, ongoing question. How is the gospel making you a better worker?
I think I always look to Joseph in Bible, for inspiration when it comes to work, because there are a lot of times when I said I take a generalist role, I'm put in problems where there are people who are ingrained in it, and who know a lot more than what I do. But God promised Joseph, saying that like you will win the favor in the eyes of the Egyptians, which was like a foreign land, and he says that you will not come out empty handed when you come out of the country. So I think I try to pray that promise for me, is to say that uh, it's every time it's a new problem, every time it's a new set of people. I don't think if I put my trust on my intellect, I'm going to really go so far. But like I would require God's favor and God's like wisdom to sort of wade through each of these situations.
Great, Andrew. Second time, as you were speaking, I'm reminded of the prophets in the Old Testament. You talked about how you, as a journalist, are sent to a people who are ingrained in their problem, and you try and kind of bring forth a breakthrough. And that's pretty much what God did with the Old Testament prophets. He sent prophets to people who were ingrained in their problem, to someone who would bring a fresh revelation. So in a sense, it's a I guess a prophetic calling that God's calling you into the workplace. Yeah, and we celebrate that. We rejoice in the unique ways that God's calling every single one of us. We've been seeing that through each interview. How could you share one example of how you've been able to love and serve others through your work?
Okay. So it's I think it's very the way I see it, it's very similar to what I spoke about when I spoke about being a generalist and being in different situations. I think there are times when if I take a specific example, there are times when people, even if they have a good solution, even if they have a good product, they might not be able to really bring out the right strategy to approach the business, the right strategy to handle the way I see it. I think I help them in a lot of ways. I enable them to do things they do better. I don't create many of the stuff, but in a lot of ways, what I do is, I ensure that they are able to do it in a much more structured way. They are able to bring some of the insights that they might not be able to do it because, they are so focused on, building the core product or whatever, however you want to call it.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Again, that definitely connects with the gospel story. The last question I have for you is, how are you able to connect your work here and now with a longing for the perfect world that we all have, the perfect world that Christ's going to bring when he comes again?
Okay. So I think the way I see it, Anand, I think I sort of understand and accept the fact that today we live in a broken world, and I am going to say that, hey, this is the world that I live in. But then where God says that when He comes to this world, it's going to be much more perfect, right? And even in Jesus' prayer, He says like, "May your kingdom come to this earth as it is in heaven." So I think while I'm going to crave for this new world, I'm going to sit and hope for it. I'm going to, while I'm waiting, I'm going to make sure that we do our bit to ensure that whatever decisions that I take or whatever actions that I do is going to be reflective of what God has, God would do, or in this perfect world that would come where you would decide. Right. So I think that's the only way I could make sense of it.
Thanks, Andrew. Again, that's so insightful. While we are waiting for the perfection to come when Christ is coming, in one sense, the kingdom of God has already come, and we are agents of that kingdom. And so the perfection that comes when Christ comes again is not going to be a discontinuous perfection from what's happening now. It's in a way, God's going to use all that every one of us as his children and agents of his kingdom are doing here and now, and he's going to connect that to eternity in a way that's just going to blow us away and draw us to worship him. Thanks, Andrew. That was very, very insightful. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for the insight that you brought. I think we should give Andrew a big hand.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.